You walk into the kitchen and stand there for a moment blinking, because you can't remember why you came in. You reach for a name that used to come to you instantly, and now it just hovers out of reach, like a word on the tip of your tongue that refuses to land. If this has happened to you or to someone you love, take a breath, because what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes could change the way you think about your mind for the rest of your life. There are 7 simple habits, things you can start doing today, this afternoon even, that research suggests may help keep your brain sharper, clearer, and more resilient as you move through your 80s and beyond. And the third one on this list surprises almost everyone, because it has nothing to do with puzzles or brain games at all. Stay with me, because habit number 5 is the one that neurologists say people underestimate the most, and skipping it might be quietly working against you every single day. Let's talk honestly for a second. Getting older does not mean your mind has to slow down. That belief, the one that says forgetfulness is just an unavoidable part of turning 80, is one of the most damaging myths out there. Yes, the brain changes with age, that's true, and there's no getting around it. But change is not the same thing as decline, and decline is not the same thing as destiny. Scientists who study healthy aging have found something remarkable. The brain, even in your 80s and 90s, still has the ability to form new connections between cells. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means your daily choices, the small things you do without even thinking about them, are shaping your brain right now, today, whether you realize it or not. So the question isn't whether your brain can stay sharp. The real question is whether you're feeding it what it needs. And that brings us to habit number 1. The first habit is movement, but not the kind you're picturing. I'm not talking about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. I'm talking about simply getting your body moving for a portion of each day, even if that means a slow walk to the mailbox and back, or a few gentle stretches while you watch the morning news. Here's why this matters so much for your brain specifically, not just your body. When you move, your heart pumps a little faster, and that means more blood, more oxygen, and more nutrients flow up to your brain. Researchers have observed that older adults who walk regularly tend to show better memory performance and sharper thinking compared to those who stay mostly seated throughout the day. There's a reason for this. Physical activity appears to encourage the growth of new cells in a part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is deeply involved in memory formation. Think of your hippocampus like a garden. Movement is the water that helps new growth take root. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need special equipment. You need about 20 to 30 minutes a day of movement that gets your heart beating a bit faster than resting. And honestly, even breaking that into 3 10-minute walks works just as well. If you have joint pain or balance concerns, walking in a pool or using a stable chair for seated exercises can be just as valuable. The point isn't intensity. The point is consistency, showing up for your brain every single day, even in small ways. Now here's something most people never connect to their memory, and it's habit number 2. What's on your plate? Your brain, believe it or not, uses about 20% of the calories you eat, even though it only makes up about 2% of your body weight. That's an enormous amount of energy going toward keeping your thoughts clear and your memories intact. So what you feed yourself directly feeds your mind. Nutrition scientists who study brain health point to a pattern of eating rich and colorful vegetables, leafy greens like spinach and kale, berries such as blueberries and strawberries, nuts, beans, whole grains, and fish rich in healthy fats like salmon or sardines. This pattern is sometimes called the mind diet, and studies following older adults over many years have found that people who eat this way tend to show slower rates of cognitive decline compared to those who eat mostly processed foods and red meat. Berries in particular have gotten a lot of attention from researchers because they're packed with compounds called flavonoids, which may help reduce inflammation in the brain and support communication between brain cells. You don't need to overhaul your entire kitchen overnight. Start small. Add a handful of berries to your breakfast. Swap 1 red meat dinner a week for a piece of fish. Snack on a small handful of walnuts instead of chips. These little swaps add up over months and years, and your brain quietly thanks you for every single one. But here's the curiosity gap I promised you. There's a hidden saboteur that many older adults consume every single day, without realizing it's working directly against their memory and focus. It's not something exotic. It's something sitting in your pantry right now, and I'm going to reveal exactly what it is and how to handle it in just a moment. But first, let's talk about something equally important, and that's hydration, which nobody ever talks about enough. Your brain is roughly 75% water. Let that sink in for a moment. When you become even mildly dehydrated, which happens more easily as we age because our sense of thirst naturally becomes less sharp, your brain can start to feel foggy. You might notice trouble concentrating, a headache that seems to come from nowhere, or a general sense of mental sluggishness. Many older adults simply stop feeling thirsty the way they used to. So by the time thirst kicks in, mild dehydration has often already set in. Experts generally suggest older adults aim for consistent fluid intake throughout the day, rather than large amounts all at once. And that means keeping a water bottle nearby, sipping throughout the morning and afternoon, and paying attention to simple signs like the color of your urine, which should be pale yellow, not dark. Herbal tea counts. Water-rich foods like cucumbers, oranges, and soup count too. This one habit, staying properly hydrated, is so simple it's almost embarrassing how often it gets overlooked. Yet its effect on clear thinking is immediate and noticeable, often within just a few hours of catching up on fluids. Now back to that hidden saboteur I mentioned. It's added sugar, and specifically the sneaky kind hiding in foods you wouldn't expect, like flavored yogurts, sauces, and packaged snacks. Here's what happens. When you consume a lot of added sugar regularly, it can contribute to spikes and crashes in your blood sugar levels. Your brain runs on glucose for fuel, but it needs a steady, stable supply, not a roller coaster. Research has linked consistently high blood sugar levels, even in people who don't have diabetes, to a higher risk of memory problems over time. This doesn't mean you need to swear off sweetness forever. That's not realistic, and honestly, it's not necessary. It means becoming a bit more aware. Reading labels, choosing plain yogurt and adding your own fresh fruit instead of buying the pre-sweetened kind, reaching for a piece of fruit when a sugar craving hits instead of a cookie. These aren't extreme changes. They're gentle course corrections, and over weeks and months, your energy and your focus will likely feel steadier because of them. We've covered movement, nutrition, and hydration. 3 foundational habits that work together like the legs of a stool, each one supporting the others. But there's a 4th habit coming up that might be the most emotionally powerful one on this entire list. Something that has less to do with your body and everything to do with your heart and your relationships. And after that, I'm going to share the habit that surprised even the researchers who study it, the one involving your ears, believe it or not, that turns out to be deeply connected to how sharp your memory stays. So stick with me, because part 2 is where things get really interesting. Let's talk about habit number 4. And I want you to really sit with this one because it might be the most important thing I share in this entire video. That habit is staying socially connected. I know at first glance this doesn't sound like brain science, it sounds like common sense, or maybe even something a bit sentimental. But here's what the research actually shows. Loneliness and social isolation have been linked in multiple studies to a noticeably higher risk of cognitive decline in older adults. Scientists believe this happens for a few reasons. When you're engaged in conversation, when you're listening to someone, responding, reading their facial expressions, remembering what they told you last week, your brain is doing an enormous amount of active work all at once. It's like a full workout for your mind, disguised as a simple chat over coffee. On the other hand, when days go by with little to no meaningful conversation, that mental workout simply doesn't happen, and over time, the brain can lose some of its sharpness the same way muscles weaken without use. I think about a woman I'll call Margaret, because her story reflects what so many people go through. After her husband passed, Margaret found herself alone most days. She'd wake up, have her coffee, watch television, and go to bed. Weeks would pass without a real conversation beyond a quick exchange at the grocery store. Her daughter noticed she seemed a little more forgetful during their phone calls, repeating herself, struggling to follow the thread of a story. Concerned, her daughter encouraged her to join a weekly card game with neighbors and to start calling a close friend every few days just to talk. Within a few months, Margaret's daughter noticed something remarkable. Her mother seemed sharper on their calls, quicker with her words, more like her old self. Now, this isn't a scientific study. It's one story, but it echoes exactly what researchers have found again and again. Meaningful social interaction appears to act almost like a protective shield for the aging brain. So if there's one thing I'd encourage you to do after watching this video, it's to reach out to someone today. Call a friend, invite a neighbor for tea, join a class or a group at your local community center. It doesn't need to be a grand gesture. Consistency matters more than intensity. Even a few genuine conversations each week can make a meaningful difference. Now let's talk about habit number 5, the one I teased earlier, the one that surprises almost everyone, and it involves your ears. Hearing loss is incredibly common as we age, and many people brush it off as just a minor inconvenience, something you learn to live with, maybe by turning up the television volume or asking people to repeat themselves. But here's what researchers have discovered, and it genuinely surprised the scientific community when the data started coming in. Untreated hearing loss has been associated in several major studies with a higher risk of cognitive decline. There are a few theories about why this connection exists. One idea is that when your brain has to work overtime just to interpret sounds and fill in gaps in conversation, it has fewer resources left over for memory and thinking. Imagine straining to hear someone at a noisy restaurant for years on end, every single day. That constant strain may quietly drain mental energy that would otherwise go toward keeping your mind sharp. Another theory is that hearing loss often leads to social withdrawal, because conversations become exhausting or frustrating. And as we just discussed, less social connection can affect brain health too. The encouraging news here is that this is one of the most actionable items on this entire list. If you've noticed you're turning up the television, asking people to repeat themselves, or avoiding group conversations because they're hard to follow, it's worth getting your hearing checked. Addressing hearing concerns isn't just about hearing better. Current research suggests it may also be one of the more meaningful things you can do for your long-term cognitive health. It's a simple step that gets overlooked constantly, and I wanted to make sure you heard it here. No pun intended. While we're on the topic of your senses, let's touch briefly on vision too, because it follows a similar pattern. Regular eye exams matter for more than just clear sight. Your eyes are, in a very real sense, an extension of your brain, connected directly by the optic nerve. Some researchers have even found that certain changes visible in the eye can offer early clues about brain health. Beyond that direct connection, clear vision simply makes it easier to stay engaged in life, to read, to recognize faces, to move safely and confidently through your home and outdoors, all of which support that mental stimulation and social connection we've been talking about. So consider this a gentle nudge. If it's been a while since your last eye exam, it might be time to schedule one. Now let's move to habit number 6, and this is the one that gets the most attention in popular culture, and for good reason. But I want to explain the why behind it, because understanding the reason makes it so much easier to actually stick with. This habit is mental stimulation, learning something new, challenging your brain regularly. You've probably heard the phrase, use it or lose it. And when it comes to your brain, there's real truth behind that saying. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. Every time you learn something unfamiliar, whether that's a new recipe, a card game, a musical instrument, or even a different route to the grocery store, your brain builds new neural pathways, fresh connections between brain cells. Scientists refer to this accumulated network of connections as cognitive reserve. Think of cognitive reserve like a backup road system in a city. If one road closes due to construction, having plenty of alternate routes means traffic can still flow smoothly. In the same way, a brain with rich, varied neural connections seems better equipped to compensate and adapt as we age. This is why researchers consistently encourage older adults to keep challenging their minds with novel activities, not just repeating the same familiar puzzle every day, but trying genuinely new things. If you always do crossword puzzles, consider learning a new card game instead. If you've never picked up a musical instrument, even simple beginner piano lessons or learning a few chords on a ukulele can offer wonderful mental stimulation, along with a real sense of accomplishment. Reading books that challenge you, taking an art class, learning basic phrases in a new language, even rearranging your furniture occasionally to keep your brain adapting to new layouts. These all count. The key word here is novelty. Your brain thrives on new challenges, not just repetition of what's already comfortable. We've now covered movement, nutrition, hydration, sugar awareness, social connection, hearing and vision care, and mental stimulation. That's 6 habits, and each one supports the others in ways that make the whole picture stronger than any single piece alone. But there's one more habit left, habit number 7, and honestly, it might be the most underrated of them all. It happens every single night, largely without your awareness, and if you're not getting enough of it or good enough quality of it, it could be undoing the benefits of everything else on this list. I'm talking about sleep. And what happens inside your brain while you sleep is nothing short of remarkable. Stick around for part 3, because I'm going to walk you through exactly why sleep matters so much for memory, And then I'll bring everything together with a simple way to start applying all 7 of these habits, starting tomorrow morning, without feeling overwhelmed. Let's talk about sleep. Habit number 7, and honestly, save the best for last, because what scientists have discovered about sleep and memory in recent years is nothing short of fascinating. While you sleep, your brain isn't just resting, it's working. During deep sleep, something remarkable happens. Researchers have found evidence that the brain uses this time to clear out waste products that build up during your waking hours, almost like a nightly cleaning crew coming through to tidy up. Some scientists refer to this as the brain's glymphatic system, and studies suggest this cleanup process is more active during sleep than during wakefulness. On top of that, sleep plays a crucial role in memory consolidation, which is essentially the process of taking the things you experienced and learned during the day and filing them away into long-term storage. This is why a good night's sleep after learning something new, whether that's a person's name or a new skill, tends to help you remember it better the next day. Poor sleep, on the other hand, has been associated in research with difficulties in concentration, memory recall, and even mood regulation. Many older adults experience changes in their sleep patterns, waking more often during the night or finding it harder to fall into deep sleep. This is common, but there are gentle habits that may help. Keeping a consistent bedtime and wake time, even on weekends, helps regulate your body's internal clock. Limiting screen time in the hour before bed can help too, since the light from phones and televisions may interfere with your body's natural signal to wind down. Creating a calm, dark, cool bedroom environment supports deeper rest, and avoiding caffeine in the afternoon and evening can make a noticeable difference for many people. If sleep troubles persist and feel disruptive to your daily life, it's always worth discussing with your doctor, since there can be many different underlying reasons worth exploring together. Now here's the beautiful thing about these 7 habits: movement, brain-healthy nutrition, hydration, mindful sugar intake, social connection, hearing and vision care, mental stimulation, and quality sleep. They don't work in isolation. They weave together into a single supportive lifestyle. When you take a walk with a friend, you're combining movement and social connection in one activity. When you learn a new recipe using brain-healthy ingredients like berries and salmon, you're combining mental stimulation and nutrition at the same time. When you get your hearing checked and start conversing more easily again, you naturally become more socially engaged, which supports your memory even further. These habits amplify each other, and that's genuinely encouraging news because it means you don't have to tackle all 7 perfectly starting tomorrow. Small, steady steps in a few areas create ripple effects across the others. I want to share one more thought before we wrap up, because I think it matters more than any single tip on this list. There's a quiet kind of fear that creeps in for a lot of people as they reach their 80s, a worry about becoming forgetful, about losing independence, about not feeling like themselves anymore. If that fear has ever crossed your mind, I want you to know something important. You are not powerless here. Your daily choices, the ones you make starting from the moment you wake up tomorrow, genuinely matter. Researchers who have spent entire careers studying healthy aging keep arriving at the same encouraging conclusion: that lifestyle habits, the ordinary, unglamorous, repeatable ones we've talked about today, appear to play a meaningful role in supporting brain health as we age. This isn't about perfection. Nobody expects you to eat perfectly, sleep perfectly, and exercise every single day without fail. It's about consistency, about showing up for your brain a little bit each day, the same way you'd show up for a garden you wanted to keep blooming. So let's bring it all together simply. Move your body a little each day, even if it's just a walk around the block. Feed your brain with colorful vegetables, berries, and healthy fats like fish and nuts, while being mindful of added sugar hiding in everyday foods. Stay hydrated throughout the day, even before you feel thirsty. Nurture your relationships, reach out to someone regularly, because conversation is quietly powerful medicine for your mind. Take care of your hearing and vision with regular checkups, since both are more connected to your memory than most people realize. Challenge your brain with new, unfamiliar activities rather than the same routine every day, and protect your sleep, because that's when your brain does some of its most important work. None of these habits require expensive equipment, special programs, or drastic life changes. They require intention, a willingness to make small, thoughtful choices day after day that add up over months and years into something powerful. A mind that stays sharp, engaged, and genuinely yours, well into your 80s and beyond. Your brain has been carrying you through 8 decades or more of memories, love, challenges, and joy. It deserves a little care in return, and the beautiful truth is that it's never too late to start giving it exactly that. If even one of these 7 habits resonated with you today, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment and tell me which one you're going to start with this week, whether it's that evening walk, a call to an old friend, or finally scheduling that hearing checkup you've been putting off. If you know someone, a parent, a grandparent, a friend, who could use a little encouragement and practical guidance like this, please share this video with them. It might mean more to them than you realize. And if you'd like more honest, practical, science-based videos on staying healthy, sharp and independent as you age, go ahead and subscribe, because there's so much more valuable information coming your way. Take care of yourself. Take care of that remarkable mind of yours, and I'll see you in the next video.